I don't even know if I want to get into it all again, just because there's a lot of things that go into deciding to tell your story. When you decide to tell your story, it's going to affect somebody else, and someone else can feel hurt, and someone else can feel betrayed, and it can lead to so many things.
It started like any other family scandal. A small ripple online, a niece speaking her truth, and an aunt trying to keep the family name intact. But this time, that ripple turned into a storm. Ashlee's face was calm in that video, but her words cracked open wounds that had been sealed for decades. She wasn't just talking about pain, she was talking about betrayal, the kind that festers when silence becomes the family's only language. Tamar Braxton, who'd been the glue holding public perception together for years, suddenly found herself in the middle of something she couldn't sing or shade her way out of.
It's not how it works. When you've been silenced and when you start telling your story, it's like peeling an onion, you know? Sometimes the first time you tell the story, it's messy, pieces aren't together, but you're finally using that part of your voice to start speaking. And then you peel the next layer off, and it gets even easier to talk about.
And he found someone else, and he married my stepmom. But it was not a good relationship. He was physically abusive to her.
Okay.
And then she was physically, mentally, and emotionally abusive to my sister and I.
The moment Ashlee spoke, the Braxton legacy stopped being about music, fame, or sisterhood. It became about what happens when one voice decides it's done being quiet. Because Ashlee wasn't just another distant cousin looking for attention. She was blood, the daughter of a man who'd been quietly protected, and the child who'd lived through things no child should ever have to explain. And when she said her truth had been buried under family image, the internet froze.
This was not the first time of me telling this story. This has been years. It started me telling this story when my sister passed away. So this is like years of me getting to this point, to this layer. I always stand true by what I said. I always stand true by what happened. And I don't know if there was a right or wrong way, the way I handled it. I don't think that there was. And with what I speak with my therapist with, there was no right or wrong way to tell the story. I just had to tell the story.
Everyone wanted to know, what was Tamar hiding? What made this even heavier was that Tamar had personally brought Ashlee into the spotlight. She'd paid for her flight, arranged the podcast, promised her a platform to speak. The trip was supposed to be healing, an olive branch, a way to show the world that even after everything, the Braxton family could face their shadows with grace. But once Ashlee arrived, that grace disappeared. The cameras rolled, the lights hit, the microphones caught hours of raw conversation. And then, nothing. No episode, no audio, not even a teaser. The whole thing vanished.
And it may not be your family, and that is totally okay. I am an example of that. You may not get support from your family, and that is totally fine. You still have the right to use your voice. You still have the right to talk. You still have the right to say how you feel. The world will try to silence you. People will try to silence you, but the world needs your voice and not your silence.
Fans asked why. Tamar dodged, her tone polished but uneasy. Insiders whispered that Ashlee's father had sent a cease and desist. Others said the conversation had gone too far, that what was said behind those closed doors would have shattered the family's reputation forever. Ashlee didn't lash out immediately. She waited, hoping someone, anyone, would call, would listen, would say, "We hear you." But instead, she got silence again, so she recorded another video. This time, her tone was different, steadier, stronger. She said she'd carried this story since her sister's death, that she had begged, for years, for the Braxtons to stop pretending everything was perfect. "Every time I speak," she said, "someone tries to shut me down." It hit like a thunderclap. Because whether people wanted to admit it or not, the Braxton family had a pattern. Public smiles, private chaos, and a talent for keeping the truth off camera. Tamar, who had always been open about her own battles with pain and forgiveness, suddenly looked complicit in the same silence Ashlee was fighting against. Inside sources say Tamar was torn. On one hand, she wanted to protect the family brand, the image Toni and Tracy had worked decades to build. On the other, she knew Ashlee wasn't lying. She'd heard the stories. She'd seen the tension at family dinners. She'd felt the weight every time someone said, "Don't talk about that." And that's when Tamar's own guilt started to show. She began hinting online that sometimes truth hurts everyone, not just the guilty. Fans took that as shade toward Ashlee. But those who knew the family saw it differently. Tamar wasn't attacking her niece. She was warning the world that when one Braxton tells the truth, every Braxton bleeds. Still, Ashlee didn't back down. She said the family was protecting the wrong person, that every time she tried to speak, her father's side of the story got polished and pushed to the front, while hers got buried under PR smiles. She said Tamar's podcast was supposed to be her closure, but instead, it became another example of the family choosing reputation over healing. And when Toni Braxton publicly claimed she didn't know what Ashlee was talking about, it was like salt on an open wound. "How do you not know?" Ashlee asked, "when I've been screaming the same story for years." Behind the scenes, Tamar tried to call her, to calm her down, but Ashlee had reached her limit. She didn't want apologies anymore. She wanted acknowledgement. She wanted the Braxton name to stop being a shield for the man who hurt her and start being a space where she could finally breathe. And that's what makes this moment so haunting. Because no matter which side you believe, Tamar's careful diplomacy or Ashlee's raw honesty, you can feel the pain echoing between them. Ashlee was the child who begged for safety and got silence. Tamar was the aunt who wanted to fix everything but waited too long. And now the silence has turned into noise so loud it can't be ignored anymore. The world is watching. The family is divided. And what started as a podcast episode that never aired has turned into a generational reckoning. But this story's just getting started. Because once Tamar's conscience finally cracks, once she starts revealing what really went down behind those studio doors, the truth that comes out next won't just shake the Braxtons. It'll change the way everyone sees them. By the time the whispers reached social media, the Braxton household had already split into quiet camps. Those who believed Ashlee and those who refused to say a word. Tamar was somewhere in the middle, pacing between guilt and loyalty. She knew how deep this story ran, how dangerous it was to let even a fraction of it leak. But when Ashlee named names, when she said Towanda and Michael Jr. in the same breath, the room went cold. Because that wasn't just a family dispute anymore. That was blood-on-blood betrayal. Here's what Tamar had pieced together long before Ashlee made her first video. Something had always been off between Towanda and Michael Jr., the kind of tension people sense but never dare to name. Small moments, lingering glances, inside jokes that didn't sound like jokes anymore. Tamar saw it, Toni saw it, even Trina had hinted once that Towanda was too comfortable around him. But no one said a word, because in that family, denial was its own religion. And now Ashlee, the niece everyone had quietly dismissed, was saying it out loud. She claimed that years ago, while Tamar was busy building her career and Toni was on tour, Towanda crossed the line. She said Towanda had seduced Michael Jr., a man who wasn't just family by name, but by trust. It was messy, shocking, and for Ashlee, deeply personal. Because to her, it wasn't about gossip. It was about patterns, about what happens when power and silence keep cycling through generations. Tamar didn't want to believe it. Not about Towanda. Not after everything the sisters had survived together. Fame, bankruptcy, public breakdowns, and private therapy. They had promised to keep their drama within the family. But as more details trickled out, that promise crumbled fast. According to Ashlee's timeline, Tamar had invited her out thinking this podcast would be about healing, not exposure. She wanted Ashlee to share her truth, just not this truth. Tamar had been trying to help her niece process childhood trauma tied to Ashlee's father and a toxic family past. But instead, Ashlee opened a new wound, accusing Towanda of crossing lines with Michael Jr. that no sister ever should. It hit Tamar like a slap, because if even half of it was true, it meant Tamar's silence had protected not just her father, but her own sister's secret. And here's where the cracks in the Braxton unity really started to show. When Tamar confronted Towanda privately, it didn't go smoothly. Towanda was furious. She told Tamar she was feeding into a child's lies. She said Ashlee was bitter, jealous, and trying to destroy what little was left of their family's reputation. But Tamar, for the first time, didn't just accept that answer, because deep down, she remembered a night, years back, when Michael Jr. had pulled her aside during a family dinner. He looked shaken, nervous, and said, "There's something I need to get off my chest." He never finished that sentence. Tracy walked in, laughter filled the room, and the conversation died. But Tamar never forgot that look on his face, that guilt, that fear. And now, hearing Ashlee's story, the pieces started connecting in ways she couldn't ignore. Tamar tried to reason with Towanda, to get her to talk, to make it make sense. But Towanda doubled down. She said Tamar was being manipulated, that Ashlee was exploiting her for attention. "You brought her here," she snapped. "You opened the door for this circus." That line cut deep, because it was true. Tamar had flown Ashlee out. She had set this whole thing in motion, hoping to give her niece closure. And now, the Braxton sisters were eating each other alive. Ashlee, meanwhile, was standing tall. Her voice in the new video didn't tremble anymore. She said she'd been silenced for years, not just about her father, but about the dysfunction running through every corner of their bloodline. She didn't name Towanda outright, but she didn't have to. Her pauses said everything. Her tone carried the weight of someone who had seen too much and was done pretending it didn't happen. She said, "When the people who are supposed to protect you choose image over integrity, that's when the real betrayal starts." And for Tamar, that was the breaking point. Because she'd spent her whole career proving she wasn't just the loud Braxton. She was the emotional one, the truth teller, the one who said what others were too scared to say. But now, faced with her own family's darkness, her voice faltered. She knew she couldn't fix this quietly, so she started preparing for her own reveal. A source close to Tamar said she's planning to release her own sit-down interview, not with family, not with WeTV, but with a neutral outlet, one that won't edit her words. She wants to clear her name, but also to stop protecting people who don't deserve protection. Translation? She's done shielding Towanda, and that means the Braxton dynasty as we know it is about to implode. Because if Tamar goes through with it, if she confirms even half of what Ashley's implying, we're not just talking about a family fight. We're talking about the end of an empire built on secrets, image control, and mutual silence. Ashlee broke the silence first. Tamar's guilt is pushing her to follow. And Towanda? She's in hiding, watching the same family she once called her backbone prepare to drag her into the light. But if you think this story's reached its peak, you're wrong. Because what happens next when the receipts surface might not just destroy relationships, it might expose exactly what Tamar saw that night in that unaired podcast recording, the moment that made her realize Ashlee wasn't lying. By the time the truth started leaking out, the Braxton name wasn't just trending, it was trembling. Every gossip page, every podcast, every fan thread was dissecting the same question. What really happened between Towanda and Michael Jr.? And while most families would have hidden behind PR statements and denials, this one had already gone too far. Tamar wasn't sleeping. Ashlee was shaking. Towanda was silent. And Michael Jr.? He was nowhere to be found. Let's rewind to the moment that changed everything. The night Tamar finally pressed play on the recording that was never supposed to be heard. The unreleased podcast. In that recording, the one Ashlee thought was gone, you can hear tension breathing through the mic. Tamar starts calm, doing her host voice, trying to guide the conversation gently. But Ashlee's tone is different. There's no politeness, no small talk. She's breaking. I came here because I thought you wanted me to tell the truth, Ashlee says. But it feels like y'all still want me to edit it. Tamar goes quiet, and then, soft but heavy. We just need to protect the family while we figure it out. That single line shattered Tamar's soul when she heard it back. Because now, listening to her own voice months later, she realized what Ashlee had been saying all along. That even when the family said they wanted the truth, what they really wanted was control. Ashlee's next words are barely a whisper in the tape, but they cut like glass. I was a kid. Nobody protected me then. Why should I protect anybody now? And that's when Tamar broke. And then the guilt that had been sitting in her chest for years finally cracked open. She remembered that night long ago. A holiday, laughter, wine, family. Michael Jr. sitting apart from everyone else, eyes low. Towanda brushing past him too close, her hand lingering too long. The way she'd said his name, soft, teasing, while everyone pretended not to notice. At the time, Tamar told herself she was imagining it, that her mind was playing tricks. But now, listening to Ashlee's voice, she knew better. It wasn't imagination, it was the truth she didn't want to face. Tamar tried to call Towanda that same night, but her sister didn't answer. She texted, she begged, "Please just talk to me. If you didn't do anything, tell me." Towanda left her on red. Then, hours later, she finally responded with 6 words that made Tamar sick. Family first. Don't feed the fire. Family first. Those 2 words had always been the Braxton code, the unspoken rule that justified everything. The silence, the cover-ups, the constant pretending. But Tamar wasn't that woman anymore. She'd spent too many years protecting everyone but herself, so when she finally went live the next day, her eyes were swollen, her voice trembling, but her message clear. Sometimes the truth hurts the wrong people. But God doesn't bless lies. I'm not keeping quiet anymore. The comment section exploded. Fans flooded the live with prayer emojis and shocked reactions. Some begged her to delete it. Others said they were proud of her for finally standing with Ashlee. But everyone could feel it. Tamar wasn't speaking as a Braxton that night. She was speaking as a survivor of silence. And for the first time, she didn't sound angry. She sounded free. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, things were falling apart fast. Towanda allegedly packed up and left Atlanta. Family members close to Toni were told to stay out of it. Their group chat reportedly went dark, and Michael Jr., the man in the middle, quietly confirmed to one close friend that something happened that should have never happened. He didn't elaborate. He didn't accuse. But he didn't deny it either. That was enough. The truth Tamar had been terrified of was finally sitting in her lap, and now she had to decide what to do with it. For years, she'd been the loudest sister, the firecracker, the dramatic one. But this wasn't drama. This was pain, real and raw, unfolding under the same roof that raised them all. She called Ashlee privately and apologized. Not as an aunt, not as a Braxton, but as a woman who'd failed to protect her. Ashlee later shared, off camera, that it was the first time she felt seen by anyone in the family. Tamar told her, "You didn't break the family broke itself." And that line hit the internet like thunder when it leaked, because that's what it was all about from the start. Not scandal, not clout, not even the accusation itself. It was about how families crumble when they choose image over truth. And Towanda eventually issued a short statement through a rep, calling the accusations hurtful lies meant to destroy good people. But by then, the damage was irreversible. Fans had already picked sides. Some said Tamar betrayed her blood. Others said she saved it. Toni, trying to stay neutral, posted a single cryptic message on her story. Every family has shadows. Some just get caught in the light. And that was that. Ashlee hasn't spoken publicly since. Tamar's podcast feed remains empty where that lost episode should have been. Towanda is still silent, but the silence feels different now. Not powerful, not controlled. It feels exposed, because for the first time, everyone sees what Ashlee saw all along. That beneath the Braxtons' polished smiles and harmonies was a history of buried pain, secrets, and unspoken truths waiting to rise. And Tamar, the sister who used to be afraid of her own voice, finally realized something powerful. Silence doesn't protect love. It buries it. Now, she's channeling that realization into a new project, one that isn't about music or fame, but healing. A source close to her says she's been meeting with trauma counselors and producers to build a platform for women who've been silenced by their own families. Maybe that's her redemption arc. Maybe it's her way of closing this wound for good. But one thing's certain, the Braxtons will never sound the same again. Because once one woman speaks, every echo in that family starts demanding to be heard too. And as Tamar herself said in her last post, staring straight into the camera with no makeup, no filter, no performance. The truth doesn't need harmony, it just needs a voice. So, what do you think? Was Tamar right for standing with Ashlee? Or did she break the sister code by letting their secrets out? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. Because if you think this Braxton family storm is over, oh baby, it's only just beginning.